we are headed out today. I got a special treat for you. Been doing a whole lot of research to see if what I have planned today has really been attempted by anybody at all. Don't want to give away any spoilers, even though the title probably said it all when you guys looked up this video or scrolled around on YouTube and just stumbled upon it. But this should, if nothing else, be interesting, and who knows, maybe I'll be a little successful, maybe I'll fail miserably. Doesn't really matter. Point is, we're going to try it and see if it works. Stick with me. Made it up to our shooting range. Today we are going to try a little experiment. I want to find out if you can shoot a bullet with a string attached to it. So right here we have an assortment of 9mm, which each of them have Kevlar tar cord either drilled and wrapped through, or in the case of this one, which is a hollow point, super glued and then hot glued literally right into the tip. Now we have our first one right here. It's just a single strand, and then we have another one right here, another single strand, and the reason why is because we need one for a controlled test. Well, we're going to end up, hopefully if we have some success, we're going to get this camera, which is an old Olympus style camera. It's supposed to be stylus tough, so in theory very tough, and we're gonna get it to the trail behind a bullet, hopefully. Well, so we have our first one here, which is just wrapped with one piece of cordage and another one with another piece of cordage, just the single, like I said. The control test here, and then this one will be the one that gets hooked up to the camera if we have any success, which we may not. But we also have this one, which is situated directly in the center of the bullet, which could end up being a little bit more productive when we shoot it downrange. Then we have another one here that actually has two of these tied through. Then we have another one here that has four of them tied through. And then last but not least, this one here has some 220 cord as well as the Kevlar tar rope or tar cordage. You may be asking, what is the foot-pounds that these are able to withstand? So these right here are a number 12. Number 12 says it is rated to 1,690 foot-pounds. So we'll see if any of these happen to be strong enough to withstand the velocity of a bullet as it leaves the barrel. You're probably wondering how I'm going to fish all this through a barrel of a Glock and then how I'm going to shoot it. Well, I'll show you. We're going to go ahead and strip this down a little bit so that way we can manually seat a bullet on the back end of this slide, so that way everything is proper and fished through the barrel without me having to chamber a round through a magazine, because this type of setup, that's not going to work. Well, let's get to it. Thankfully, Glocks are extremely easy to tear down, which is one of the reasons why I chose to do a Glock. So the first one we're going to start with is our controlled. And how we're going to do this is we're going to start off by unraveling it, of course. Now, I don't have it too terribly long. I can always shorten it if need be. But the idea is to see if this is going to hold at all as we shoot at our rotten stump of a tree. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take this barrel, we're going to feed the line through, and we need this line to be all the way through so that way when the bullet leaves, it doesn't have a line to be interfering with its travel down the barrel. So we are going to seat this round into the ejector portion of this slide. And as we're doing that, we're just slowly going to scoop back this barrel. There we go. And now you have a bullet in the chamber and a string coming through. Let's go ahead and put the recoil spring back in. Alright. This gun is now live. Tie a string around the trigger. And I'm going to pull it from a distance. And this is going to be anchored to a tree. It's not going to go anywhere. And I'm going to go ahead and just aim it right at where we want to shoot, so that way I don't have to worry about doing any sort of sight adjustment as I am ready to pull the trigger. So let's get into doing that part next. Okay, string is set up. My makeshift pulley here. And this is going to be our controlled test. And all we're going to see is if we're able to get that bullet to travel outside of that barrel without shearing or completely ripping off this line right here. And we just have the line kind of draped down. All we're trying to do is get this end of the line over into that stump right there. So let's see if we can achieve that. Well, the case did not fully eject, but it does appear to be overall safe enough for me to use by hand on the next shot. In the meantime, what happened to our string? It's no longer sitting here. I see a portion of our string right here. Did any of it happen to stay connected? Well, it maybe did not stay fully connected, but oh my god, it did. Look at that. This tree, or rather this string, is completely sunk into this tree. It is not going anywhere. And it has the majority of this string still attached, as you can see. So what does that tell us? That tells us that this is going to work. We may be able to pull a camera behind the bullet. Let's try it. I'm so excited this worked. I had my doubts. But not anymore. Now that we have our controlled test figured out and we understand that this method does work, it's time to attach it to the camera. And let's see if we can't get the camera to trail behind a 9mm bullet. I'm actually just going to fire the gun normally at this point, because I've already established that this is safe and nothing happens to the gun slide. Let's shoot and see what happens. Alright, well, everything cycled properly. I did get the camera to move literally about a foot. It's like we ended up shearing it off. And I kind of expected that might happen once we have a little bit of added weight. And that's totally alright. The camera ended up landing right down here in the ditch, about 1.5 feet. So now we're going to try one that I have a little bit of hope for in terms of not shearing off inside of the barrel. And if you're not familiar, barrels typically, unless it's a smoothbore shotgun of some kind or a little 310, they have rifling in them. And that allows the bullet, which is this lead part right here, to make revolutions within the barrel so that way when it leaves, it's got a spin on it, and as it's spinning, it helps keep its velocity and its minute of angle. So I'm hoping that because I inserted the string into the very center of this hollow point, that there's nothing for it to get caught up or scrape against while the bullet is leaving the barrel of the Glock. Okay, we are doing test number 3 now, the one with the hollow point attached to this camera. So let's get this camera turned on and recording, and then we will start shooting. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can't get this camera to move more than just 1.5 feet. The camera made it even less far. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, test number 4. And for this one, we're going to use the one that has 2 strings attached to the bullet. Look, we made the camera move about another foot further than where it did the first time we got it to move. Some people might call that progress. Okay, we got 2 left. We're gonna go with this one next. The one with 4 strings attached. I think that will be pretty cool if it is able to hold on to that camera. Now I'm thinking that the initial velocity of the bullet is fine, even attached to the string. But when you have an object that weighs heavier than the bullet, I think that instead of kind of trailing behind it like that, it basically just rips the string directly off. It could be that the camera's just too heavy. Okay, here we go. Well, we ended up with a pretty similar situation as the last test. Did not go very far. It ended up shearing off, actually, but oh, what do you want to call that? An inch past the last one? Progress is progress. Okay. This one, I actually have a little bit of hope that it will not detach from the bullet. And here's the reason why. So as I've showed you earlier, this one has got 220 cord, but it's got the 220 cord wrapped also with, man, I cannot focus, with that 1690 foot-pound of Tarr cable, or Tarr cordage. When this thing yanks the camera as it's flying through the air, you know, when I drilled those holes, I think that those holes are actually, or possibly what's searing off the cordage as it is attempting to yank this camera behind it. So I'm hoping with this thicker cordage mixed in with this Tarr cord, we'll get some progress on this one and maybe get it to move more than a whole 2 feet. We'll find out. Let's go ahead and, there we go. Cock, lock, ready to rock. Don't forget to put my ears down. Let's see if this one works. Oh, I so hope you guys were able to see that. It kind of worked. Kind of good. Our camera has made it an official 6 feet from its resting place, so that's progress. Let's see if this Olympus stylus tough is tough. Still recording, so that was good. That was good stuff. But I got one more for you. And it's not a bullet. And it may not work, but I think it probably will. So, hold on. Don't go anywhere just yet. I think we're going to have a little bit more success on this one with getting this camera to travel through the air via a projectile that it's attached to. What are we using, you may be wondering? Because we've shot 9mm pretty much all day today. But that's not what we're up to. So, to give you guys an idea, this is a 5.56. But we're not going to attach a string to this. The reason why, for one, is entirely too much velocity. With the 9mm being substantially slower, and it's still shearing the string or cordage, you know, once it's been fired while it's attached to the camera. This will undoubtedly do the same thing, but even quicker. So we're not going to use that. Exactly. Instead, we're going to use a blank. Same thing. This is a 223, but it's a blank. You may be asking yourself, how are we going to get a blank to travel? Because, well, it's a blank. You can't attach anything to it. There's no bullet. You are correct. There's no bullet. But we're not using a bullet. We are using a rubber ball. A rubber ball? A blank? Where are you going with this? Well, let me explain something to you. This is a product from X Products. It is called the Can Cannon. The Can Cannon accepts only blanks because, well, you can't shoot a real bullet through it. It'll damage the product. But what's cool about this is you could put almost anything inside of it. It's kind of like a blunderbuss sitting up on top of an AR platform. So today we're going to go ahead for the last shot and throw that ball inside of the cannon and try to get the camera to trail behind it that way. And this is all powered with blanks. So let's go ahead and see if we have any better luck with this version. I think we will. All right, let's go ahead and get a round chambered in here. You gotta, every time you shoot one of these blanks, you gotta cycle it yourself. Kind of like a bolt action. There's absolutely no way it can cycle on its own, but that's quite all right. Don't mind, not one bit. We are good and locked. So let's try this out. You know, in all honesty, I'm thinking we're probably going to lose this camera, but if we can salvage the memory card, it should be pretty epic. Okay, so I may have turned off the better camera and then fired, not thinking that I still had the ball inside of the can cannon. And when I shot, it actually went perfectly, but I didn't get it on the video footage that I wanted. So we're going to try and relocate that ball and do it again. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Now I know I shot from here, aimed that way. The ball, or rather the camera, landed over there, and I'm pretty sure the ball landed somewhere over there. You know what's going to happen is it'll end up getting too dark. I won't be able to find it, and it'll become somebody else's. So let's try not to give a free, badass, awesome X Products ball to some rando that we don't even know. Gotta find it, guys. Gotta find it. stay there. Oh, check this out, guys. You remember this from the first shot? This string right here, this cordage, it is anchored into the base of this tree. I still think that that is pretty epic that we got a bullet to hold on to cordage and anchor into a tree. Later on, I'll tell you guys about my ideas on some practical applications as to how this actually might be useful for somebody one day. Well, I think I want to get packing up and get back home, and we'll wrap everything up with a little bit of my ending thoughts on to how this could be potentially useful. Not attaching a camera behind a projectile. That's not useful. Maybe to somebody like me, because I'm looking for ridiculous footage, but for you guys it's not practical. However, I do have some things that this will be a pretty good use for, so we'll talk about that later. Yeah, as always, I rode up here. I ride everywhere, and like I said earlier, I totally did not dump the bike. No sir, not even once. It's because I dumped it twice. Yeah, one more shot. With the camera, I mean. But check it out. Look what I found. Yeah, buddy. Found the ball, so you know what that means. We'll be able to try this again in the future. And I will bring other balls. No man is complete with only one.